There is a specific type of misery that is haunting the modern American middle class, and nobody wants to talk about it because it feels ungrateful. It's the misery of doing everything right, getting the degrees, landing the good jobs, combining two solid salaries into a six-figure household, and still feeling like you are one bad month away from total ruin. We look at the math, and it doesn't make sense. If one person making $60,000 could support a family 50 years ago, surely two people making $130,000 today should be swimming in cash, right? You should be maxing out 401ks and taking European vacations. Instead, you're stressed, exhausted, and barely covering the basics. If you have ever looked at your combined bank account and thought, we make way too much money to feel this broke, you aren't crazy. You are a victim of the two-income trap. It is a financial bait-and-switch that has quietly destroyed the security of millions of families. Today, I'm going to show you the math that proves why working twice as hard has actually made you less secure than a single-income family from 1970, and exactly how to escape it. To understand why you feel like you're drowning, we have to look at the shoreline we drifted away from. Let's rewind to 1970. In 1970, the typical middle-class family structure was one primary earner and one stay-at-home parent. Now, I'm not here to argue the sociology of that era, but I am here to argue the math. Financially, that single income was powerful. According to census data and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, a median single-income family in 1970 could buy a median-priced home using about 25% of their gross pay. They drove a car, fed a family, paid for basic health care, and still had savings. But here is the critical part that most financial gurus miss. That family had an ace in the hole. They had a backup generator. If the dad lost his job or got sick, the mom could enter the workforce. It wasn't ideal, and it would be a scramble, but they had an untapped income reserve that could save the family from bankruptcy. Fast forward to today, the two-income household is now the standard requirement for survival, not a luxury. Over 60% of married couples with children have both parents in the workforce. We have universally activated the emergency backup generator and made it the primary power source. And what did we get for it? Did we get double the wealth? No. We got an exploding cost of living that absorbed every single penny of that second paycheck.
Since 1970, while median household income has risen, the costs of the big three, housing, healthcare, and education, have hyperinflated. Adjusted for inflation, the median home price has essentially doubled. Healthcare spending per household has skyrocketed over 600%. And childcare? That is a line item that didn't even exist for the single-income family, and now it costs the average American family between $11,000 and $30,000 a year per child. So, here is the terrifying reality. The modern two-income family doesn't have double the security of the 1970s single-income family. They have less. Their fixed monthly costs have ballooned to match their combined income, meaning if either partner loses a job, the whole house of cards collapses. I know what you're thinking. Jeremy, we make $130,000 a year. Surely we are coming out ahead of a guy making $15,000 in 1970. Let's stop guessing and actually run the numbers. This is the part of the video where I need you to be honest with yourself. Let's take a realistic couple. Partner A makes $75,000. Partner B makes $55,000. Combined, that is $130,000. That sounds like a lot of money, but let's audit exactly what happens to Partner B's $55,000 salary. We assume this money is helping us get ahead, but is it? First, the tax man. People forget that the U.S. tax system is progressive. This means your second income isn't taxed at the same rate as the first dollars you earn. It is stacked right on top. That $55,000 is hit immediately at your highest marginal tax rate. Between federal tax, likely the 22% bracket, state tax, let's average 5%, and FICA payroll taxes, 7.65%, you are easily losing 35% of that second income right off the top. Starting income, $55,000. Taxes, minus 35%, that is $19,250. Remaining, $35,750. Second, the childcare tax. If you have two working parents and young kids, you need childcare. The national average is $15,000 per year for an infant center. If you have 2 kids, this game is already over, but let's be generous and say you have just 1 child in care. Remaining, $35,750. Childcare minus $15,000, remaining $20,750.
Third, the work tax. You have to pay to go to work. The average American commute costs roughly $5,000 a year in gas, maintenance, and depreciation. Do you need a second car just to get to that second job? That's car insurance, registration, and a car payment. Then add the professional appearance costs, wardrobe, lunches out with colleagues, office gifts. Let's call it a conservative $8,000 total. Remaining, $20,750. Work costs minus $8,000. Remaining, $12,750. Fourth, the exhaustion tax. This is the silent killer. When 2 people work 40+ hours a week, domestic labor doesn't disappear. It just gets outsourced. You are too tired to cook, so you order DoorDash 3 times a week. You are too tired to clean, so you hire a service twice a month. You buy pre-chopped veggies, convenience meals, and pay for lawn care. This is called exhaustion spending. It is money you spend solely because you lack the time to do things yourself. A conservative estimate for a dual-income family is $5,000 a year. Remaining, $12,750. Exhaustion spending minus $5,000. Net profit, $7,750. Look at that number. You worked 2,000 hours this year. You dealt with a boss you might hate, sat in traffic for 200 hours, and missed milestones with your kids. And your net financial contribution to the household was $7,750. That is roughly $3.87 an hour. And if you live in a high-cost city like New York or San Francisco, or if you have 2 children in daycare, that number turns negative. You are literally paying for the privilege of working. Now, the critics will jump in the comments and say, well, just don't buy lattes, live frugally. But personal responsibility is only half the story. The other half is a systemic trap coined by Elizabeth Warren, yes, that one, in her book, The 2-Income Trap. Warren found that 2-income families weren't going bankrupt because they were buying Rolexes and luxury boats. They were going bankrupt because of the bidding war.
Here is how it works. In the 1970s, families competed for housing in good school districts based on one income. Once dual-income families became the norm, suddenly everyone had twice the purchasing power. Parents, desperate to get their kids into safe neighborhoods and good schools, started bidding against each other using that second income. When everyone has 2 incomes become the baseline price of admission. Housing prices in desirable areas didn't just rise, they absorbed the second income entirely. You aren't buying a mansion, you are buying the same 3-bedroom ranch house your parents bought, but you have to work twice as many hours to afford the mortgage. This locked families into a terrifying position. To live in a safe neighborhood with good schools, you must have 2 incomes. But because your mortgage requires 2 incomes, you have zero margin for error. Warren's research revealed that 2-income families are actually more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families. Why? Because a single-income family who hits hard times can send the non-working parent to get a job. A 2-income family who hits hard times has no levers left to pull. They are already running the engine at 100% capacity. If one person loses a job, gets cancer, or has to care for an aging parent, the mortgage fails. It is a game of musical chairs where the music never stops, and you are running as fast as you can just to keep your seat. Okay, that was the depressing part. I don't tell you this to make you feel hopeless. I tell you this because you cannot escape a trap you don't know you were in. The system is designed to consume your combined income. Banks will approve you for a mortgage that requires 45% of your gross combined pay. Car dealerships will sell you 2 SUVs based on 2 salaries. If you want to win, you have to break the rules. The only way to escape the 2-income trap is to adopt the 1-income foundation. Here is the strategy. You and your partner need to structure your big fixed costs, mortgage, rent, utilities, and essential food, so that they can be covered by one salary alone. I know, that sounds impossible.
Jeremy, we can't find a house for that price. It might mean you don't buy the house in the A-plus school district, you buy in the B-plus district. It might mean you drive a 10-year-old Toyota instead of leasing 2 new Teslas. It might mean you stay in a smaller apartment for 5 years longer than your friends. But here is what you are buying with that sacrifice: freedom. When you live on one income and bank the second, 3 things happen. 1, you regain your backup generator. If your partner gets laid off, it's not a crisis, it's an annoyance. You can still pay the mortgage. The stress level in your house drops from a 10 to a 2. 2, you stop exhaustion spending. When you aren't terrified of losing your job, you can negotiate better hours. Maybe one partner goes part-time. Suddenly, you have time to cook, to fix things yourself, to breathe. 3, you build wealth at warp speed. Remember that $55,000 second income? If you aren't using it to pay the mortgage and you invest $30,000 of it annually into the S&P 500, in 10 years, you have $500,000. In 20 years, you have $1.5 million. The 2-income trap is not about how much money you make. It is about how much money you have committed. The bank wants you to commit it all. The economy wants you to spend it all. Don't let them. Treat the second income like it's a temporary bonus, not a permanent paycheck. Because life happens, layoffs happen, health issues happen. And when they do, the family with the low fixed costs and the fat investment account is the family that survives. Appearances aren't wealth. Flexibility is wealth. We traded our time for stuff, and we lost our peace of mind in the process. It is time to buy it back. If this video made you look at your finances a little differently, do me a favor and hit the like button. It really helps get this message out to other families who are drowning and don't know why. And if you want to learn how to actually structure that one-income lifestyle, make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.